All right, guys. Welcome to the podcast. John, thank you for being on. Betty Jo, thank you always for being my lovely co-host. And I'm excited. We've been trying to get this scheduled for a while. And John, I feel like I know you really well. You're Betty's good friend and mentor in flipping. And man, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I didn't realize this was a video. I got a little mustard here and some door stain from working earlier. So
It's all right. Life of a dad and a flipper.
Yeah, there you go.
Flip-flop king.
I knew you'd be showing up in flip-flops. That's one thing I already knew about you. You wear flip-flops everywhere, which my feet get too cold. I can't do that. Like I must have bad circulation.
Oh, maybe.
Otherwise I would.
I don't know that my feet have ever been cold.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot to talk about, and a few things that are really important to me: being a great dad, being a great business partner, and you have investors and people that work with you. You flip a ton of homes, you have a ton of rentals, you have a treasure hunt, which is really cool, fun to watch, and also you've helped people, and I don't know how much of an impact or how much that you've done for Betty, but she speaks the world of you. And so that's the main reason I wanted to have you on. And she's like, man, he got me started. He took me under his wing. I don't know why, took a chance on me. And, she's done amazing things flipping. And so number one, huge thank you for, helping others and helping Betty Jo. Betty, do you
remember the first bit of advice that I gave you? Remember we went to that lunch? It was about real estate before flipping. Remember what my advice was?
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. It said, pretend to be a realtor. Keep your job and just tell everybody you're a realtor.
It's great advice.
And and then next thing I know, she's one of the best in the business. So it's great.
I think I was showing your buyers houses with Rowan, who was like 10 days old.
Strapped to your chest, right?
Yeah. We saw 2 houses before they even knew I had a baby in my jacket.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, oh my gosh, it's a baby.
That's awesome.
Well,
yeah, we go way back, don't we?
Yeah. Family, friends, and you guys have done a few flips together, made some money, I think lost a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But you've had one deal kind of go south on you?
Yes, thanks to COVID.
Ogden?
It definitely was a bit older of a house. It was like, 1896?
Wow.
Like a 4-story.
Beautiful house.
Historic mansion. Had a lot of history in it. That one was rough. We lost about $50,000.
Yeah.
But we had 4 other flips at the same time, and all of those together, like I think we ended up still about $5,000.
Yeah.
So you learned a lot, made a little bit of money.
Yes.
It's a great education.
Made some tears, some anxiety.
Yeah, I think we've all cried a time or two over real estate deals or, struggled at times. So, John, one of the questions, because you do what you do, why should someone not become a flipper? Like it's rough at times. So give me like 3 reasons why if I want to get into flipping houses, just don't even think about it.
That's a great question. It's crazy. Every time I get in an Uber, they're like, what do you do? Like, I flip houses. Almost every time they're like, I flipped a house.
Mm-hmm.
Like lots of people have done it.
Yeah.
But why don't they keep doing it? It's because it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
I would say, HGTV and other things make it seem like it's easy, like it's easy
Joanna
money.
Gaines,
like you're turning around and you're making money hand over foot all the time. And once in a while that happens, but more often than not, you got a whole bunch of problems to solve. And so, I would say even lots of investors who are savvy and good at investing, it's almost like you flip a few houses and you're like, man, that's not for me. And then they go into multi-units or land development or some other part of real estate investing. Flipping is not for everybody, but I would say you need to be able to handle stress and risk really well. If that's not your thing, definitely don't even flip houses because it's very stressful.
Yeah.
And you're taking on a lot of risk. You're borrowing other people's money that you're also, taking on and stuff. So those are reasons not to flip. Also, if you don't like solving problems, it's never going to be the same thing every time.
You read my mind. I was going to say no 2 flips are the same.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, oh, here's what we did on the last house. Okay, yep, that's what we're going to do on this one. Because no two houses are the same. You have to be a problem solver, and you got to have room in your budget to solve those problems with. Usually it's money.
Yeah. And there's so many things that happen that are out of your control in house flipping. For example, one time I bought a house and this guy it was occupied, and the guy was renting the rooms out by the night.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh my
obviously
gosh.
for drugs or other activities.
Mhm.
And when we got the constable there to evict him, there was like literally 25 people on the property.
Oh my
So the
gosh.
constable's like kicking all these people out of the property. And I walk around to the back of the house and there's some guy laying on the ground. And I kind of like kick his shoe with my foot. I'm like, hey man, you got to get out of here. Wake up. He doesn't move. He doesn't move at all. And so I go get the constable.
Oh
I'm
my
like, there's
gosh.
some guy sleeping in the back. And the constable comes back and like tries to rustle him and checks on him. And he's like, this guy's dead.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the dude was dead.
What?
And here's the thing. Like, okay, that's a crazy story. You find a dead guy on your brand new property, but the police investigated his death. They shut my job down for 5 months. I couldn't even touch it. I couldn't
Oh
go
my
onto the
gosh.
property. I couldn't do anything. That's 5 months of
insane.
interest at $300,000. All of a sudden, I'm 15 grand into this thing that I wasn't planning on.
Yeah.
I had no control. I could do nothing about it.
Holy cow. Dead guy at your property.
Yeah.
Obviously wasn't dead when you did your due diligence.
No.
So he must have just.
There were tenants. Like we walked through, there were tenants. It was a deal that I bought with no due diligence, but
Okay.
I don't know that I would have backed out, because what happened is what they finally determined after 5 months, he was doing drugs, but he didn't overdose, heroin. But it was one of those freak days in March where we just got like 8 inches of snow overnight. And so he did heroin, passed out, and then it snowed and he froze to death.
Oh
He
my
died of
gosh.
exposure.
Oh
That's
my God.
insane.
And we lost half our profit on the deal because
Yeah.
of that. And so anyway, that's a segue off your question a little bit, but that's the kind of stuff that happens. And we just had to figure that out. We had no control, and no one could know, not me, not our lenders. Nobody could know that was going to happen.
Yeah. Charlie Munger once said, if you can't stomach taking a loss once in a while, or having, I think his exact quote was, having your portfolio go down by half once in a while, you shouldn't be investing. And I would say the same is for flipping. If you can't stomach taking a lower return or actually losing money, probably shouldn't be in flipping.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently started teaching courses, and one of the first things I tell them is I'm good at this, and I still lose money on 1 out of 10 deals. Sometimes in the last 2 years, even more than that. It's been a rough 2
Last 2 years have been rough.
But in a good market where everything's great, I'm losing money on 1 out of 10 deals. Like if you can't lose, that's another reason not to flip houses.
Okay. And that's where scale comes in. And that's why I think a lot of the good flippers realize, okay, I can't do 1 a month, or I can't do 4 or 5 a year, because you lose 1 out of 5 in a deal. That's a huge loss. You lose, 1 out of 20 or 2 out of 20, a little bit easier to stomach that way.
Yeah, especially when you have to wait 6 months for your paycheck every, or 4
Yeah.
months or every flip.
It's
You're
another
waiting
reason
for
not
your
to
money.
flip. You got to wait
Yeah.
quite a while to get paid.
Right.
Have you ever had months where, you just had stuff fall through and kind of living on rice and beans for a while?
Yes, especially in the early days. Now I've gotten better at sometimes taking profits up front or figuring other things out and things like that. But still, even as I'm training my team that works for me, they get paid every couple weeks. They never go through the
Yeah.
I have no money if I don't finish this house. So there's that urgency that me, when I was a one-man show, had to do in order to, I would finish a house in 3 weeks that would take 3 months because I wasn't paying bills otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be a challenge in the beginning, figuring out, okay, I'm going to make 30 grand, but I'm not going to get that for 6 months. What do I do to pay my bills in the meantime?
Right.
So hopefully if you're new, you have another job or some money saved up or something like that. You know?
Well, and the
High
advice
credit
you gave
limits. Just kidding.
Betty Joe was, pretend you're a realtor, keep your day job till you
Yeah.
have checks coming in. That's the advice I've given everyone when they want to get into real estate is keep your day job until you got some deals going on. Work nights and weekends. If you really want this, give up your TV shows, give up your nights and weekends until you got some closings happening. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not, I don't think that's for everyone. For a lot of people, they have that job, but for some of us, like what we do this full time, it's fake it till you make it and figure out a way. Just have to either borrow it, get credit cards, that's how you just have to push through that scary moment, and then you get paid and you're like, okay, I can do this again.
Yeah. You say you're never going to do it again, then you get paid and you're like, oh, I could do this again.
And you're like, oh, the house
Right.
is such a good deal.
And you lose money and you're
Since-
like, I'm never doing this again. And then it's such a great deal though. And you do another one. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Since
Do you
I've
feel-
known her, she's said twice, yeah, I can't do flips anymore. She's like, I'll work with John if he wants to work with me, but if he'd want me to work for him, but I don't think I'm going to do any more flips. And then
And then
she
I
buys
bought
another
another.
flip. Yeah, I'm not going to do this again. And 6 months later, she buys another flip. I'm like, believe it when I see it. But
It's kind of
you know,
addicting.
Yeah.
But what I know you've been a realtor for a long time. Why don't you like doing normal real estate versus flipping?
I don't dislike it. I just don't make as much. So I don't do it very often. Like working with buyers is tedious, even though I actually, my first, 10 years, I made a habit of still working with buyers on purpose, because then I would get to go into houses and see what really mattered to them. I feel like it gave me an edge in flipping, because that's one of the things I always tell people is don't spend money on a nice shower head, because I've walked through hundreds of houses with buyers. I've never once ever seen one of them look at a shower head. Now that's changed a
Good
little
data.
in the past few years, because we do a lot more rainbirds and it's more of a statement piece. But when I started, back in the early 2000s, everything was out of the wall and like this. And I'm like, just go buy the $20 shower head. Don't go buy a $200 shower head because it looks pretty, because no one's ever going to look at it. And little things like that allowed me to like save money. And one of the big things I learned is windows are not as important as most investors think. Because everyone goes in, and almost all my competitors, they go in, they just buy the brand new window package. They get rid of unless they already have double pane.
Mhm.
If there's any single pane or the old metal ones or the broken ones, they get rid of them. But I would go through houses with buyers, and they didn't care.
No.
When their dad came for the inspection, he'd be like, you're going to lose like $300 a year on your because
That's so
this
true.
insulation is not going to be good. But the buyers didn't care. And I learned that like I can go spend $8,000 on windows, or I can spend $8,000 on a killer backsplash, and the house with the killer backsplash is going to sell before the house with new windows. So it helped me to allot money in different ways. So anyway, I liked working with buyers. Now I got my hands in way too many things, and I'm way too busy to spend 3 hours on a Saturday working with buyers, but I don't dislike it. And then listings, I take them whenever I get them, because I'm listing 3 of my own houses, but I'm not out actively pitching listings either. But I don't dislike it at all. It's just not it's not the best use of my time.
I'm going to say return on
Money
investment.
wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like working with buyers too. And I do look at the shower head. The one from the ceiling, not the one from the wall.
Yeah. And they all match now, and it's kind of ruined my whole don't look at the shower head thing, but in the lower end stuff, like
Yeah,
No-
they're
no
they're
one
not
cares.
paying
Matter at all.
attention to that.
Yeah.
I like what you said about backsplashes. That's great advice. Pay attention to what buyers think are important. I feel like a lot of people, like my first flip, I thought all this stuff was important. I did like heated floors. I did my own travertine tile, and I grew up laying tile and did all this stuff that I thought was amazing, and probably spent an extra $30,000 that did not matter to the buyer.
Yeah.
Did not matter.
Yeah, and you have to learn those things. And one good way to learn that is to walk through houses with real life buyers, for sure.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
I've never replaced windows unless they're broken.
I'm sure I taught you that very early on.
I think you did. Every
Yeah, I
single
always
one has-
wait until if they're bad, the seals are broken or they don't work, I'll replace them, because I know that's going to come up in the inspection. But I just make it a point of the negotiation in the sale, because sometimes it's a big deal to them, and then it's like, yeah, I'll replace them. But 9 times out of 10, I don't have to replace windows, and almost always I don't have to replace all the windows.
It's a good
Usually
thing
it's
to keep in your back
half.
pocket. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, probably gonna have to replace these, but I'm not going to yet, just in case the buyer doesn't care.
Exactly.
But plan for it. That's great. Well, one big question I wanted, and this is, I think, be really interesting to hear. But Betty Jo, I'd love to hear from you, like what it really meant to you to have a friend and someone as good as John take you under your wing. So, do you mind just taking a minute to share kind of what it meant to you on a personal level, but also professional level, learning how to flip?
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, I met John when I was like
19.
19. Yeah. And I think I'd gone on a date with one of your roommate's brothers. was very like casual friendship, but we kept going to John's house. What did you guys play? Gears of War?
Yeah.
Nice.
So you'd walk into this like 1890s house. So pretty small, like 900 square feet on that first floor. And they'd be like 15 guys with like 8 or 10, I don't know how many TVs, but they'd be huddles in every single room.
Yes.
And it was fun. Like there was just all these older college guys playing Gears of War, and they're like, oh, we're going to do a movie marathon. And I just kept going, and I became really good friends with his little sister, Dana and Reagan. And whether we hung out alone, we'd always end up at John's house, the maxi pad. So I always had a friendship with him. Like it was like, I know you.
Yeah.
And then when I got into real estate, I would just start bugging him. Like, hey, John, can you tell me what this is? Hey, I had a client that they were going into foreclosure. Dad lived in it for about 1.5 years, hadn't paid a mortgage, didn't turn off the utilities, pipes were burst, everything. And I brought him over there, and he's like, there's not enough money to buy this to flip it. It's like, you should, like, it just list it. So we went through, got all the utilities turned on. I took out my first credit card for like $5,000, and we did all the work, like cut the pipes out. First I called a plumber. He charged me $250 every time he went to cut out. And there was like 15 burst pipes. So we kept having to cut holes. And I kept calling John, what do I do about this? He's like, I don't know. Did you look on YouTube? Mm-hmm. And so I just had this like easy, I would just bug him whether he replied or not. He always replied. And we sold that house 5 days before it went to auction. And I made like a little bit more than my commission. It was like $8,000 for the work. They walked away with $12,000, so $6,000 each. And I was like, holy crap. Yeah, they were looking at foreclosing and ruin their credit forever. And then the next time I was like, hey, it's like, do you still want to do flipping? I'm like, yeah. So we went to Sunset, this little tiny 3-bed, 1-bath, like patio home. And we walked around, and he's like, well, what do you think you should do here? And we walked around to each room. What would you do in the kitchen? What would you do in the bathroom? And then he's like, here's the key. And he's like, call me in 3 weeks. I was like, oh shit. So I remember spending lots of nights with my brother, and I was like, how do we take off like wallpaper? And we were literally just like YouTubing it, asking, I asked John, hey, who do you have for this? Who do you have for that? Thumbtack. And we made like $25,000 on that first little flip.
Yeah.
Took me awesome. 8 weeks instead of 6, but yeah, that's where it just kind of started. It was that like, I don't know what the freak I'm doing, but
well, and that's the point I asked you. That's the reason I asked you the question, and that's kind of the point of the story is everyone at some point needed someone to believe in them and give them a leg up and give them a helping hand. And so, I've had that in my career, and I know you've talked about John a lot. And so just wanted to make sure John knows you appreciate him. And that was a big moment for your career, big moment for you growing and becoming the savvy real estate investor and flipper that you are.
Flipping $1 million homes in Pepperwood now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Very proud.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
That was a good one.
Well, cool. So, and what did that mean to you personally, Betty, to have someone not only just kind of say, hey, here you go do it, but I mean, you were still new in the business, and to your family, that meant a lot, making that $25,000.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was kind of a stay-at-home mom. Not really. I mean, I just wanted to make $40,000 a year, make sure my bills were paid. My kids could do activities, take them on a vacation. And I've always loved flipping, but never felt I had what it took to do it. And I don't know, maybe he just was like, she's so annoying that I'm just going to give her a bone. But no, it just became like I was obsessed with real estate and designing and flipping, and I love buyers. And so being able to walk through homes and be happy with a product that they can actually be happy in versus like some rundown, crappy paint flip.
Yeah.
So, nope, John was you just bug him and he'll finally answer you.
I don't remember you bugging me at all.
No, I think I followed you around for a couple of days. You're like, just walk around. We went through like different, I don't know how many auction or like sight unseen homes, but it really is just a risk. You just have to like make a decision. This is either going to be great or it's going to cost a lot, or I'm going to lose. But I've learned something with every flip.
Well, and as a, you were working mom, wife then to then single mom of 4 with no help financially from anyone else, namely exes. I know it meant a lot when I met you. I was like, damn, this girl's awesome. She's got 4 girls at home. She's flipping a house. She's selling real estate. I think you closed on that flip, and I don't remember what you made on. Was it the Clinton flip?
Yeah,
you made some pretty good money on that one.
Yeah,
and so John got you started there, and that's awesome. I think again, everyone needs that person in their life, or multiple times, to say, hey, here you go. Well, let me help you out. Let me give you some guidance. So, John, thank you for that. I think that's awesome. And now look where we're at. We're doing a podcast, and she's flipped a bunch of houses, made a bunch of money, and that I know for sure that made a huge difference in her life.
Yeah, I think my brother even did your course, which we didn't even talk about. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He just went and did it on his own, and he's got his first flip in Price. And but yeah, John, you've been one of my biggest mentors since I first got started, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you. It's funny. I mean, I don't know, funny is maybe not the right word, but I hear you say that, and Cody's been very grateful, and I'm sitting here like, well, I didn't really do that much. Like, it doesn't take that much to be helpful and kind and helpful when you start to get the hang of something to help people out. So it's cool to hear, but I almost feel undeserved a little bit. Like, oh, well, it's
such a humble guy.
Glad it worked out.
Yeah.
As well as it did.
There's a lot of people that don't share, that don't help others. There's people that you ask them for help, and I've made it a point to try to learn from people. That's why I started the podcast, is to get people in my room to educate me and my investors, and there's people that don't have any interest in helping others. So one of my favorite quotes is from Zig Ziglar, and I don't know if he came up with it, but you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that basically, to me, means you're going to be a really happy person if you're thinking less about yourself and you think a lot more about helping others and just talking to other people, answering questions, instead of only focused on yourself. And I think, we all have those people in our lives where they only think about themselves, and every time you talk to them, it's about themselves. And the people that help others are generally pretty happy, and everyone's got challenges, but if you're focused less on your own problems and focus on helping others, it's a way to be. So Tell me a story about a deal you lost money on, because every flipper's lost money, and
I have so many. I feel like when Rhea asks me to come speak, it's always like how to lose money and horror stories from real estate. And it's because of the massive volume I do too. But let me think. My first really big loss was very unique. It was the first time I bought a house sight unseen. It was in Ogden. And I remember it was on like auction.com or something. And the way you bid back then, it was kind of like eBay. So we're waiting till like the last minute, and then we bid, and then someone else bids, and it bumps the thing up 2 minutes. We kept and we got caught up, in the excitement. I say I had a partner. He was in Minnesota at the time. So I'm on the phone with him and I'm bidding, and it's really exciting. Anyway, and this was in 2012 or 2013. So we bought this house for $70,000. Mm-hmm. We paid $70,000 for it in Ogden. And then when we get into it, the foundation is one of the worst I've ever seen. And I'm a foundation expert now. Yeah. But at the time I wasn't. Like wholesalers know, if the foundation's horrible, call John Maxim. Like, that's just kind of the deal right now.
You've had a river.
This is the river house. This is the river house.
Okay.
So the foundation's so bad, I walk in there and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I put a soda can on the living room floor, and at a very fast speed. It rolls all the way down to the wall, like, and bounces back. Like it was crazy bad. And then I go downstairs and I can stick my hand like this far through the crack, almost all the way out through the wall with the light that I can see. That's how big this crack in the foundation is.
Sheesh.
So I'm like, oh man, what's going to happen here? So we get into helical piers, which is my first experience with this. Now I've done probably 100 homes with helical piers, but that's where they, just if anyone's never heard of it, they drill down below the house and put the house basically on stilts. And these metal stilts go all the way down till they hit bedrock. Mm-hmm. And then they can jack the house up a little bit, which I don't recommend, by the way. That's another story. But, anyway, it stabilizes the house, and then we fix that one piece of foundation and get the house stabilized. Well, these guys, when they bid this, obviously they don't know where bedrock is. And so we got the bid, and the bid was like $20,000 or something. And that was for 19 helical piers that were only going to go down 20 feet. Mm-hmm. And they bid that based on the other helical pier jobs that have been done in the area. Mm-hmm. But then they're like, but we don't know. And it's $7 per foot or something.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Anyway, it was way deeper. I think all of them ended up being like 160 feet.
Say like 100. Yeah.
And what's crazy is I went over there one day and I got this on video. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. I go over there one day and I can hear what sounds like water. And the guys are in the next room drilling, and there's these pipes like sticking up that they're going to attach to the foundation. And I get over to one of them, and it's like just sound of water rushing. And I get my phone out and I get my thing down there, and I can't see because it's 160 feet down into this dark little hole, but I can hear rushing water way 160 feet down below this neighborhood in Ogden, and find out there's an underground river that runs down under Ogden. Yeah. And this house, we just drilled right down through the river into the bedrock. It was a crazy experience. Okay. Anyway, the piering itself ended up costing us like $78,000, and we sold the house for $150,000. So we did like a $50,000 remodel on top, which is what we were planning on when we bought it sight unseen.
Oh man.
The numbers originally were buy for 70, put 50 into it, sell for 150 or 160. Anyway, we ended up losing $70,000 on it. So I think the helical piers were more like 120 actually, now that I remember, but they were more than we paid for the house. Yeah. The helical piers were way more than what we actually paid for the house.
I remember that video.
I still see that house. I drive by that because I like Ogden. I do deals in Ogden a lot, and drive by that house once in a while. I'm just like, oh man, river. That guy.
160 feet. Piers.
Yeah.
So my buddy bought a house, a lot from me in Provo on the East Bench, and I'm like, hey, you need to get a geo, you need to get soils, like this. He's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, like you want to. So he bought it, couldn't build on that lot, so he bought the rundown house next door. I'm like, get a geo, man. Like, long story short, he's about 200,000 in on piers, and the city wants him to do more. Like they want him like every 6 feet. And so moral of that story is unless you're buying something sight unseen, get your due diligence done. Get the soils report, get the geos. That's piers are expensive.
They are. And actually my story from 2014, that they're almost double that now.
Oh yeah.
So that would have been like a $250,000 job if it was today.
Oh man. Yeah. That was a cute house. I do remember it.
It was cute.
It
was
high pitch.
Yeah. We didn't jack it up because, I've learned this since then, but we ended up just building a ramp in all the rooms. So so it was kind of like a fun house, like because the ceilings were all crooked and the walls were all crooked, but the floor was level. That's so funny. That you didn't because you kind of got vertigo when you're walking on it. But when you jack up those houses, all your windows break, because houses, when they settle really slow. And then when in one afternoon you try to lift it like 2 inches. One time we did a house in Poplar Grove and we jacked it up. We were trying to raise it like 3 inches, and the roof joist just popped right through the roof.
Oh,
all the windows broke. None of the doors closed. So you end up, if you have to jack it up, you end up spending another, like you start remodeling a whole bunch of things you didn't have to before.
Interesting.
So. Good we advice. Had to jack up one of ours in Ogden. It was only like 3 inches, but it did help.
Yeah,
We didn't break any windows.
Usually if it's more than 2 inches, I recommend don't bother.
Yeah, they cut out like this, one of the main floor joists, and then there was like a 6-inch gap, 5-inch gap where the wall was supposed to be supporting it. And we're like, it's not doing anything. Luckily, that wouldn't cost very much, but still.
Yeah.
We have a Dallas property. Apparently Dallas, they have just terrible, terrible soil all over the place.
I've actually flipped some in Dallas. And all the slab on grade stuff, you really have to check and make sure because it's a very sandy. Soft. Yep. You get lots of cracked, horrible slabs.
So we knew going into that property that we'd have to jack one up. We ended up having to jack up 2 buildings. But just what you said, we jacked it up and then everything inside just started popping, looking weird. Doors didn't shut. So doubled our cost there, which wasn't fun. It's doing great now, but I don't love foundations. I don't love foundation issues, but really fun conversation about flipping. John, you have 5 kids. What are their ages?
I get this wrong sometimes. Let's see. 4, 6, 8, 11, and 13.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got 7, 7, 11, 11, 13, and then her oldest, 18, off to college.
Yeah, I saw off to
Not
college.
weird.
So on the socials, I saw that. It's
actually
cool.
For Christmas, we did a Brady Bunch reenactment photo. And my mom was the nanny. It looked great. It looked just like it.
That's cool. I don't think I got that. That's great.
I'll send it to you. I don't think we sent it out. I think we
you didn't.
did it too late,
posted
but
it or
put
something.
it on social media.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe this year. It's always my goal. Actually get Christmas cards out this year. And I usually don't end up doing it, but we'll do it.
I never do, so it's like not my forte.
But no, I mean, one of the things that really resonates with me and probably I feel is my life purpose is just being a really good dad. My dad kind of just disappeared when I was 10 and, I had a stepdad and everything, but, I recently took work off on Wednesdays because that's when I get them back from their mom. I have 50-50 custody and realized they're really missing their dad on those days. And so I don't work Wednesday afternoons so that I can just hang out with them for a few hours. I work in the evenings and as I was doing this podcast for a few years, I realized, that's actually really fun to talk about because everyone's got different things that they want to teach their kids, different things that are important to them as a dad or as a mom. For me, it's teaching them things I should have known, like how to just budget your finances. I moved out as a 19-year-old kid, went on a mission, came back, didn't know how to cook, didn't know anything about finances, knew how to work really hard. So that's one thing my stepdad helped with. But what are kind of some things that, you've got young kids and now teenagers, what's kind of important to you as a dad? And you're very busy. I think you've got 5 games and things going on this Saturday, practices. But what kind of makes you tick as a dad and what's important to you is passing along to those little kids that you're in charge of?
And it's awesome that you're so thoughtful about it because I sometimes feel like I'm just trying to survive most of the time and make sure so I, only been divorced 2 years. So I had a 2-year-old when we got divorced and similar to what you mentioned in your story, just didn't really want to be a mom or a wife anymore. And so I got just handed full custody.
Wow.
So I have them 26 days a month. She'll take them in the days here and there and kind of picks and chooses when it's convenient, but which is great because I want them to have a relationship with their mom. But it made it really hard because while we were married for 12 years, I worked full time and sometimes even more than full time because I'm a house flipper and an entrepreneur and I'm working sometimes 80 hours a week. And that was my motivation to start building a team and having people under me is so I could be home with my kids more and stuff. And so, this last couple of years, it's been really hard to even just figure out laundry and all the stuff that I've got in rides and how do I keep working? Do I just take work off? Do I just stop every day at 3:30 or 2 when they get to school, or do I get a nanny or someone to pick them up? And luckily I have family that's been very helpful and stuff, but it's just in the last, this school year, actually this last summer and school year that I feel like I've kind of gotten the hang of it now we're like on a schedule, and they're they have the housework and the chores that they're doing that they can get paid for, and just different things that I try and teach them. But I don't know what I'm teaching them. Like half the time I am just like, I just hope they feel loved, because I don't even know, half the time I'm not even as concerned that they're fed. I mean, I do my best, and usually they let me know, but I just want them to just feel loved. And obviously I want to teach them how to be good people. And, there's certain things like like house chores. I was big on chores when I was a kid, but, I've seen a lot of other things where there should be things that are just expected that you don't get paid for. And then you let the kids figure out ways to add value to the family where they can do a chore that maybe isn't. So we'll list things on the board that, are things that they could decide to do if they wanted. And these kinds of things, I didn't make up any of them. I'm just like trying to learn from everybody else, but I just want them to like have a happy childhood and know that they're loved is all. That's I know it's hard in a divorce. I mean, I didn't come from a divorce, so I guess I don't know, but I can see it in my kids and how they've reacted to divorce, divorce, and it's all different with each one, but I just want to make sure they feel safe and loved more than anything. And the rest of the stuff, hopefully I'll keep figuring out as I go. Yeah. Because I don't know how people do laundry for 6 people all the time. It's an impossibility. It's insane.
Like all the time,
I literally have an exercise with my 11-year-old. I go down to her room. I'm like, smell it. Is there stains? Put it back in your damn closet. It's not dirty. You're not washing it for the second time this week. And Betty's nonstop doing laundry. We have a deal. Like a few months ago, I was like, okay, what do you hate doing? She's like, floors. I'm like, I hate doing laundry. I'll help keep the cycles going, but I hate folding laundry. I got the floors if you got the folding of the laundry. She's literally folding laundry 7 nights a week.
Yeah. It's all the time.
And
because
putting it away takes a long time too. I'm getting my kids to where they're putting their own clothes away. And I just got my 13-year-old to kind of fold his clothes. Kind of. I think half the time he just wads them up in the hopes I don't notice, But yeah, laundry's, my hat's off to anyone who's figured out laundry.
So I threw away about 70% of our towels because I was like, I think I'm doing 10 loads of towels. So I threw almost all of them away except for like designated hot tub towels and then like 1 to 2 towels per person. That's still a lot of towels.
I just made a rule with Heidi. I'm like, my daughter's Heidi and the one with the clothes on the floor. And I'm like, Heidi, I'm just going to start throwing away toys I can't do your floor's covered in clothing and wet towels. We can't do wet towels. Like it's not working. Whatever I'm telling you on a weekly basis is not working. So which toys do you want me to throw away? She's like, those ones. I'm like, so you don't want me to throw away those ones? Those are the ones that are getting thrown away the next time. And she's like freaking out. No, that's so mean. I'm like, I can't do this musty smell of like nasty towels on the floor anymore. It's like, it's inexcusable. I'm sorry. Like, anyways.
Every kid's got a different personality, but she's got like high ADHD. So she's going a million miles an hour in 10 different directions.
Yeah. Everyone loves her, super social, but just
the room is
now
worst.
That I threatened to throw away her slime and some of her stuffed animals, we don't have wet towels on the floor anymore. It's amazing.
That's great.
I figured it out. Great. So, yeah, I mean, being a parent in a separated household is tough. And when you initially get divorced, I know I was terrified. Like I was so worried about my kids and their happiness and feeling loved and whatnot. And they're super resilient. And what's been kind of cool is it's been kind of a rough year, work-wise, financially. And Heidi's gotten to the age where she's like, Dad, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, I've had some rough deals these last few months. And she's like, well, I don't need an expensive birthday present. Like just one little birthday. If you're not making as much money now. And it's like, it's really cool. It's gone from, me taking care of these little kids since they were babies. I was their primary caregiver to, Heidi's now conscious of how we're doing financially and trying to pull her weight a little bit more and
making some sacrifices. That's really cool.
It's really sweet. It's really cool of her to do that this last week. And I too just hope they're super loved and feel loved and safe. And one of the guests I had on here, I thought was really cool. Dave Allred, has a whole plan that he's put on his website of teaching your kids financial literacy, and he makes them all have jobs and helps them start companies when they're teenagers, and had some really cool, very purposeful things that he's doing. And I'm like, man, I need to step up my game. I'm like just trying to get him to do chores and homework.
We call those people superstars.
Yeah.
I'm
awesome,
over here like above just getting by. Just kidding.
I mean, I remember Dave telling me some of that, and I'm pretty sure my response was, "It must be nice having a wife." So I'll worry about that when I find somebody new. You know,
Dave's wife is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, she's
funny story
amazing.
about them. So he was climbing Mount Everest, and I was doing a deal with him, and it's a 1031 and title, and his agent had kind of messed it up, and he was about to not be able to close on time. And she was the only other signer. He's on Mount Everest. I'm like, call Larissa up. I'm like, you just got to trust me. Like you're going to save like 50 grand if you come in and sign today. So she had never met me. I'm like, please, like, I promise you, Dave will be really happy that you come in and sign today. Saving the 10. So we saved the 1031 exchange. He calls me from Mount Everest. He's like, oh, thanks, man. I'm like, no problem. Larissa saved the day. We got her in to sign, but we've been buddies, about 8 years since then. But anyways, very purposeful about being a dad, and I had him on a couple months, and it kind of made me want to double down and do a little bit better, be a little bit more purposeful about what we're doing. But at the end of the day, yeah, it just sometimes you are just surviving, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
I did have I did make this up, my summer vacation board this summer, and we sat down as a family, and I put a little calendar on the whiteboard. And I said, all right, you guys, here's the weeks of summer. What do you guys want to do for your summer vacation? Because what happens so often, I'm working nonstop. I'm so tired. I don't make any plans. I don't want to make plans. And we end up like wandering to the park once in a while, or let's go in the backyard. We're fighting about devices. So they, and it got pretty funny where they're like putting Dubai and like all these crazy things we're definitely not going to do. But,
Nice.
We went camping and fishing and all these things. And so then every week, like on Saturday, we'd be like, all right, which of the things on the board are we going to try to do? And we planned it. And it was the funnest summer
That's awesome.
we've had as a fan. Like it was so great. It was so great.
So get them excited about planning activities.
Yeah, they get to be in on it. And then it was scheduled in advance because we had already talked about it. So I couldn't just sit back and be like, I'm exhausted, and maybe they won't notice that we're not doing anything fun right now,
Yeah.
And I made their summer vacation as fun as I could. And it felt great.
I love that because it kind of gives, I think as parents, we get caught up in like what we think we need to do and plan vacations, and what they want to do is much simpler.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones was go on a night walk.
I was going to
And I was like, night walk? What's that mean? She's like, it's just, we just go on a walk as a family after 10 p.m. And I'm like, it sounds awesome.
I saw that in Fatso, like,
yeah,
carried home.
We took our dog, which is your dog's daughter, right?
Yes.
And she's a bulldog, and she's can't walk more than like 4 blocks without hyperventilating. And we walk her like 2 blocks all the time. She's fine. But this time we went, I think it was like 6 or 8 blocks. I thought she was going to die.
Yeah.
She was
you guys went to
so
like
hard.
the gateway or something?
Yeah, we went to the gateway.
She had like drink out of the fountain because she was dying.
Mm-hmm. We actually put her in the fountain to cool her off. Yes.
Yeah. Before I got into real estate, I was breeding bulldogs. That was my side hustle.
Yeah. And I got one of them.
And you got one of them.
That's awesome.
And so did,
Cameron.
oh my gosh, Cameron.
My best friend got her brother. Yeah.
Yep.
They still hang out all the time.
They're the best.
That's cool. Well, 3 years ago, I went to Costa Rica, and it was the most amazing place. I was there for a business conference. I spoke at it, and we stayed on a beach Airbnb. So I walked out on the sand every morning and swam in the ocean. Riptides are really scary there, so be careful. And then the jungle, we did 4-wheeling, jumping down waterfalls. My friend Eric, the editor of this podcast, Eric, how you doing? He almost died, flew off a cliff on a 4-wheeler. Luckily, his head's very thick. And
Wow.
I think he cracked his helmet. And the guy was like, the guide was like, can we just not tell anyone about this? Like, didn't want his boss to find out, didn't want insurance to find out. And we're sure, Eric survived. But just a gorgeous, gorgeous place. And you're raising money right now for a deal that you're working on, and then you just bought another lot there, right?
Yeah.
And is it, so the West Coast, Tamarindo's kind of northwest, and is it close to Tamarindo? One of the lots is in Tamarindo, right?
Yeah, it's south of Tamarindo in
Oh.
Avellanas, which is like an up and coming super beach town right now. In fact, it's one of the best investments I've ever made. It's
awesome.
It's funny too. I'll just mention this because you're following. Like my whole career, I've been pretty anti-mastermind, mostly because there's a lot of hype and fakeness in coaching and gurus and masterminds, and I could see right through it because I'd already known I did. And I was the reason Betty Jo calls me and says, "How do you do something?" I say, "Did you look on YouTube?" Is because that's literally how I taught myself to do everything in house flipping. Like I even replaced a furnace motor once, which you should never do.
YouTube University.
From YouTube, and so I was very anti just because the vibe, like it was a very just almost oftentimes a sleazy seminary. Like there's always a pitch, there's always a sale. And I realized, I went to one of my friends' mastermind, actually Dave Allred, that's where I met Dave, was at this mastermind.
Cool.
I realized that I was getting masterminds wrong. It actually, the education I've still never really found very much value in because there's always a hook for something else, but it's the networking.
Yeah.
And so I'm at this mastermind in Las Vegas or something, and I meet this guy who's like, he brought his wife to the mastermind, and he's like, "Hey, I got this deal in Costa Rica. My wife doesn't want to do it. I'm really nervous. What do you think about it?" And I look at it and I'm like, this looks like the greatest deal ever. If you guys don't want it, I'm going to buy it. And I didn't know anything. I'd never been to Costa Rica. I didn't know anything about it. I don't speak Spanish, but he had served his mission there. And so he knew people there.
Oh, cool.
He was like, "Well, maybe we could partner on it. Do you want to go down?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he's like, "All right, let's fly down." We flew down to Costa Rica. This was the end of 2020, so the year of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And now I own four houses and a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
In Costa Rica, and we rent them out as Airbnbs. They're all the biggest, beautifulest things in their town. We've got a couple in La Fortuna, one near San Jose. And Playa Avellanas we have an awesome beach house there. And then we just bought the lot next door to our beach house. And this beach house is returning. Like I always say, our first three deals there, because I just bought another one in La Fortuna that I'm raising money for. But the first three deals that we've owned for over a year, 3 years, 2 years, and 1 year, we bought one every year. I always say are like the three bears. One's too hot, one's just right, and one's too cold. The first one we bought, we didn't do everything right. It was our learning experience Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And so our response or our return on it's not fantastic, but it's an awesome property. We love, it's actually probably my favorite one, but it's just too far away from stuff is its problem. But then we bought the beach one, and it's way outperforming all of our projections. All of our investors are super happy with it. And then our jungle one in La Fortuna is doing exactly what we projected. And so
nice.
They're great. You come in, and how we fund them is we just, financing's pretty difficult in Costa Rica or not economical. We just, if it's $1 million, we get 10 owners that bring in 100,000 each. You get a return quarterly, which, usually on all the ones we're doing is between 14 and 18%.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And then you get a week for free at the.
It's a great deal
at
That
the
is great.
place.
for our listeners. 14 to 18% is really good.
Yeah.
Like that's fantastic.
And they've been steady through the Airbnb downturn. And I own an Airbnb management company as well. Mm-hmm. And all of our U.S. properties that we manage about 80 properties. It's been terrible the last 18 months. Anyone who's in Airbnb knows. But the Costa Rica stuff has almost not been affected by it. It's awesome. Like people just are going there constantly.
That's awesome.
So yeah, if any of your listeners or anybody's interested, the lot we're raising money for, we just actually closed on that a couple weeks ago. And then the house we just bought in La Fortuna, it's one of the most beautiful. It's actually the most beautiful. It's completely off the grid. It's got 2 tree house units that you just feel like the whole wall, you're showering in the jungle. Like there's no blinds. It's just windows, but it doesn't matter because it's just jungle. And there's the volcano. It's right next to the Arenal volcano and the Arenal Lake. And it's like we just had to buy it. It was such a great property. So I need a few more investors to fill that out. I got some gap funding to cover it for the purchase, but it's a great investment. I'd love to have you guys look at it or anybody because it's And that's the thing. Now I've been to Costa Rica like 8 times. I know everything about it. I love it. And I go down there and I stay in one of my houses for free. And I'm making,
love that.
I mean, we last quarter we made 30% on our beach.
That's amazing.
Wow.
On our beach one.
I know I've been wanting to invest in one of those, but I've got to sell something. One of my investments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as it keeps working, I'll probably keep going for it because it's been, and that's the thing, like in Avellanas, like it's just booming, like more and more developments going in everywhere. It's going to be a second Tamarindo just right down there.
That's awesome.
It's a beautiful little area.
Well, cool. Yeah. Send me the info. I'll send it out to people because you get a week in Costa Rica and 14 to 16, 18% returns, 30 on a really good month or quarter. That's amazing.
Yeah. And all but one of them, we actually have caretakers that live on the property and they'll come pick you up from the airport. They make meals for you. They do the whole, it's awesome. You go out hiking all day and you just like, hey, will you have dinner for us here tonight? And they're like, yep, sure. I mean, you have to pay for that, but you're going to pay for it wherever you eat, right?
Yeah,
right.
That's
it works out really cool. It's really nice.
I've actually got to go show houses in Salt Lake. We're going to finish up, but John, really appreciate you being on. Definitely send us over your Costa Rica. I'll text you my email. Would love to send that out to people I know that have money. And I've had probably 5 clients or investors buy in Costa Rica in the last year. And it's an amazing vacation spot. Very nice people, I would say. A lot of people speak English there.
Yeah. Especially when you get closer to the coast.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, a lot of English speaking. Amazing
very
surfing.
Friendly. Yeah.
Jungle, amazing. People are amazing. Food's amazing. There's a volcano. So yeah, it's a really cool spot. She's told me a little bit about it, but it was fun to hear more. So just for our listeners, we talked about a lot today, but parenting through divorce and just being a loving dad. I mean, that's a lot of kids don't get that. So it's okay to feel like you're just surviving sometimes. I know we feel like that with our 5 or 6 at times. And why not to get into flipping? We talked about losing money, problem solving, high stress. It was also really rewarding. You obviously stayed in it a long time. You made great money doing it and doing it in Airbnbs. And it was really fun hearing today. Now the GoPro's done recording. We're getting told it's time to sign off. And then finally, just to recap, you've made a huge impact in Betty Jo's life and her family through that. So, again, on behalf of her, appreciate you and thanks for coming in. This has been really fun.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Yeah. I'm happy to do it.
What's your biggest why? Because obviously you've been doing flipping in real estate forever, but what is your biggest why on staying in the business now with 5 kids as a single parent?
Well, I mean, definitely my why's got to be the family. I mean, even before the divorce, it was the wife and kids, and now it's the kids and maybe, if it ever happens, the future wife. Especially, I mean, I've been doing this 20 years and the whole being the best or flipping the best house or loving the design so much that I see a lot of other flippers get caught up in. I'm way beyond that. I just want to make a living and have good times with the kids. And now I'm getting to a point where I can't, I just go home when they're done with school now. I've just awesome. Made that part of my day and I can go spend time with them and I don't work on the weekends and I don't work on the nights and I'm no longer figuring it out. So it's been able to allow me to create time to be with them, which is what I want to do.
Got freedom.
Yeah.
You come from a big family.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids?
6 kids.
6 kids.
Yeah.
And they've all got big families as well. Yes. And that's something that's super important to you, right? So just time with your family and your kids.
I think if you're chasing dollars or big goals, that's great. At the end of the day, all that really is important for me is time with the kids. And that's huge. So I love that you said that. That's awesome. Any last thoughts, Betty Jo?
Nope. Just, I don't know. Let's flip more houses.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I get it. You want to flip some houses. Let's do it.
No.
Okay. Thanks a bunch.
I keep saying I'm going to get away from it, but I'm stuck. So.
Yeah, she's not getting away from it. She likes it too much.
I do.
It's too fun.
It's too fun.
It's too fun.
And I feel like you really can have more even though it's a crazy schedule, I feel like you have more control, more freedom.
Yeah.
I take my kids on site all the time.
I never miss an elementary school band.
I love that.
Or anything, because
Nope.
I just throw it into the schedule. It's part of my life.
I love it.
Sweet.
And congrats on getting an assistant.
Yes.
I remember seeing your office at the your cousin's attorney office, and I was just stacks of papers, 17 whiteboards. But
we all have to graduate someday.
A little disorganized by myself. I definitely needed help, and she does awesome at it.
I've heard
the
best entrepreneurs have the messiest desks. Look at, I think there's a picture of Warren Buffett, or who was it? Jeff Bezos' desk. I'm like, oh, I feel good about my desk now.
Yeah. I haven't heard that, but I'm really, I should be more successful apparently.
That's
My
awesome.
desk is messy.
That's awesome. Okay, we're signing off. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
John.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.